My name is Claire, and I used to think a child's birthday was the one day the world should feel kind. But on Lily's 6th birthday, as she stood in a backyard full of decorations no one came to see, I learned how deep betrayal can run, especially when it's dressed as family. What they did to her. That was the moment I stopped asking for fairness and started planning to take everything back. Before we dive in, let me know in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? I love hearing from you. The sun was warm that day, soft golden light falling over the backyard like it wanted to make up for everything else. Cupcakes, balloons, pink streamers dancing on the breeze. It looked perfect. Picture perfect, even. But Lily stood by the wooden gate in her polka-dotted birthday dress, clutching the hem with both hands, waiting. Watching. She didn't smile. Not once. I think they're just late, baby," I said, trying to keep my voice light. The lie tasted bitter even as I said it. Lily glanced up at me. Her brown eyes were huge, searching my face for clues. "Maybe," she whispered, then quieter, so low it barely reached me. "I don't think they like me." I nearly dropped the plate of mini sandwiches in my hand. She wasn't supposed to know. She wasn't supposed to feel it. The invisible lines drawn by adults who should have known better, the silence wrapped in judgment and old grudges. But she did. She felt it all. 6 years old and already reading between the absences. I stepped inside for a moment, my hands trembling as I texted Dana, my older sister. "Where are you?" Lily's asking. "Please at least text back." "Nothing. I tried Mom, my niece. My cousin Janine, no response. Not even the decency of a lie." Back outside, Lily was still by the gate, pretending not to notice that every seat at the table was empty. She picked up a balloon and bounced it half-heartedly against her palm. I crouched next to her, brushing hair from her face. "Sweetheart, how about we go inside for cake, just the two of us?" "Okay," she said quietly. Her little hand slipped into mine, and I swear I felt it. The moment something inside her dimmed. When we lit the candle, I sang for her. Alone. My voice cracked halfway through, but she smiled at me anyway. She tried to make me feel better. She made a wish. I didn't ask what it was. I was too afraid she'd say, "I wish someone had come." After she went to bed, after I'd read The Velveteen Rabbit in my best storyteller voice and kissed her forehead twice, I sat at the kitchen table with the remnants of untouched sandwiches and unopened juice boxes. I stared at my phone. Still nothing. Finally, I typed one more message to Dana. Not a question this time, just, "Shame on you." I didn't send it. I just stared at it, wondering if I'd ever have the courage to hit send. I was angry, yes. But beneath the fury was something much colder. The awareness that this wasn't new. That Lily's heartbreak was simply the latest consequence of choices I'd spent too long pretending didn't hurt anyone but me. Well, it hurt Lily now. And that changed everything. 3 days later, I stood on the front porch of Dana's house, fists clenched in the pockets of my cardigan. The walk from the car had felt longer than usual, maybe because every step dragged the weight of Lily's birthday with it. I rang the bell once, then again. When Dana finally opened the door, her eyes flicked over me like I was a stranger selling something she didn't want. "Claire," she said flatly, "didn't expect you." "No," I replied. "You didn't." For a beat, neither of us moved. Behind her, I caught a glimpse of her 2 girls sprawled on the couch with a tablet, goldfish crackers scattered across the floor. The smell of microwaved chicken tenders filled the air. Ordinary, uneventful. As if my daughter's heartbreak hadn't even registered on her radar, I held her gaze. "Can I come in?" Dana exhaled sharply and stepped out, pulling the door closed behind her. "Probably better if we talk out here," she said. Her voice had that familiar clipped edge. The one she used when she was pretending not to care. But I could tell she knew why I was there. "Lily waited for you, for all of you." She didn't even eat a cupcake until sunset because she thought maybe, just maybe, someone was coming late. Dana crossed her arms. "Look, I figured you'd be mad." "Mad," I snapped, my voice rising. "I was desperate for you to just say something, anything, even a lame excuse would have been better than that silence." She looked away. "You could have told me," I continued. "You could have said you weren't coming. You could have called and said, 'Hey, we're not showing up for your kid's birthday because—'" Dana rolled her eyes. "Because it would have been awkward, Claire, that's why." "Awkward," I echoed, stunned. She shrugged like it was obvious. After Nick left, after your little meltdown and that whole custody mess, we didn't want to show up and have it feel uncomfortable. You know how Mom and the others are." My mouth fell open. "So you punished Lily, a 6-year-old, because my marriage ended?" Dana didn't flinch. "We didn't think it would matter that much. She's little." "She's little," I repeated, each word like a nail. "But not stupid, and certainly not disposable." Dana scoffed. "Claire, come on, you've always been so dramatic. This is why it's hard to be around you. Everything's a performance, a crisis." I stepped back slightly, the words cutting deeper than I expected. "Maybe you've convinced yourself I'm just difficult," I said, voice tight. "But Lily is innocent. And what happened on her birthday wasn't awkward. It was cruel." Dana's face darkened. "You think I don't have my own stuff going on? 2 kids, a husband who travels all week and bills up to my ears. I don't owe you constant attention." I looked at her, suddenly exhausted. "No," I said quietly. "You don't owe me anything, but you owed Lily one afternoon. You owed her the decency of showing up." For a second, I thought I saw something flicker in her expression, guilt maybe, but it vanished. I tightened my grip on my tote bag. "You know what, Dana? This isn't about you anymore. It's about my daughter, and if I have to stand alone to protect her, then so be it." Dana raised a brow. "What does that mean?" "It means," I said evenly, "I've booked her first therapy appointment. She's 6 and she already thinks she's not loved by her own family. I won't let her carry that story one more day." Dana blinked, caught off guard. "You're putting her in therapy?" "Yes. And if I have to put myself there too, I will." I turned to leave. "Claire," she called after me, "this is going to make things worse." I paused, hand on my car door. "No, Dana, pretending it's fine is what made it worse." Back home, I found Lily on the floor in the living room, coloring a picture of a unicorn with glitter pens. Her face lit up when she saw me. "Mommy, look, I made her of rainbow hair." I sat beside her, wrapping my arm gently around her. "That's beautiful, baby." She leaned into me, her tiny body so full of quiet resilience it nearly broke me. "I'm going to fix this," I whispered against her hair. "I don't know how yet, but I will." And for the first time in days, she smiled just a little. A week after Lily's birthday, I found myself rearranging our calendar like it was a lifeline. Monday, art class. Tuesday, therapy. Wednesday, park playdate. Thursday, reading hour at the library. Friday, just us, movies, popcorn, and whatever her heart wanted. I wasn't trying to distract her. I was trying to show her, you are wanted. You are worth showing up for. Over and over and over again until maybe, just maybe, she'd start to believe it. At first, she said very little. Her drawings were quiet things. Mostly unicorns, always with big eyes and tiny, sad mouths. The kind of pictures that made your throat tighten when you realized the colors were hiding something. At bedtime, I'd wrap her in fleece blankets and stories. I read the same books twice, sometimes 3 times, because she asked. Because she needed to hear that the world, even if only in fiction, could still be gentle. One night after I'd tucked her in and turned off the light, I lingered by the door. "Mommy," she whispered. I turned back. "Yes, baby," she hesitated. "Was I bad?" I blinked hard. "What?" "On my birthday," she said. "Maybe they didn't come 'cause I was bad." I crossed the room in 2 steps, sinking beside her bed. "Lily, look at me." She looked. "You are never bad. You are smart and kind and brave, and if people didn't come, that's about them, not you, ever." Her little fingers curled into mine. "I love you," I added, "more than there are stars. Even when I'm grumpy. Especially then," I smiled through the ache in my chest. "Because even grumpy Lily is my favorite person." She fell asleep with my hand in hers. The next day at therapy, Lily sat with her knees tucked under her while Dr. Patel, her psychologist, handed her a sand tray and a collection of tiny figures. Lily chose a single unicorn and buried it halfway in the sand. "She says she's hiding," Lily whispered. Dr. Patel nodded gently. "Why is she hiding?" Lily shrugged. "Because she doesn't want anyone to forget her again." That night I cried in the shower, quietly, away from her. Because I had to be strong during daylight, but my strength ran out with the moon. I'd tried so hard to shield her. I'd kept the divorce quiet, the shouting behind closed doors, the slow unraveling of a marriage I had once believed would last. I thought that if I made her birthday magical, she wouldn't notice the cracks. But she did. And now I was watching the light in her dim a little each day. By the 3rd therapy session, Lily had stopped hiding the unicorn. She set it on top of a plastic mountain and gave it 2 tiny friends, a fox and a fairy. "She's not alone now," Lily explained, matter of fact. "They like her." I caught Dr. Patel's glance. That small change, it meant everything. After the session, while Lily picked out a sticker from the reward box, Dr. Patel pulled me aside. "She's processing abandonment," she said gently. "Not just from the birthday, but probably from the changes at home. And likely from cues she's picking up that you don't realize you're giving off." My heart clenched. "She's resilient," she continued. "But this will take time." I nodded, throat tight. "Whatever it takes." I drove us home in silence, my hand resting on her leg from the driver's seat, a quiet connection to let her know I was still there, always there. At bedtime, she asked, "Do I have therapy again tomorrow?" "No, baby," I smiled. "Tomorrow is art class." She grinned. "Can I paint the unicorn?" "You can paint whatever you want." As she drifted off to sleep, I watched her chest rise and fall, her breath slowing, her small face peaceful for the first time that day. I sat beside her long after, thinking. They might have tried to erase her birthday, to make her feel invisible. But I was going to make sure the rest of her childhood drowned in presence, in love that showed up, in warmth that didn't ask her to earn it, because the world might be unkind. But her mother, never again. It arrived on a Wednesday. A cream-colored envelope shoved between junk mail and an electric bill. No return address, but the handwriting. I recognized it instantly. Dana's sharp, slanted script, like each letter was trying to get away from the next. Lily was in the living room watching a cartoon about dragons and snacks. I stood by the kitchen counter, staring at the envelope, weighing whether to open it or burn it. Eventually, I tore it open with the tip of a butter knife. Inside was a folded letter, short and smug. "We're buying my girls gold earrings for the holidays. You owe me $2,500. Venmo works." That was it. No hello, no hope Lily's okay. Just entitlement sealed in paper. I read it 3 times, each time slower. It felt like a joke at first. Like surely she didn't mean it. But then I remembered Dana never joked when money was involved. She expected this. As if generosity was currency I owed her in return for their absence. I stared at that number, $2,500. The cost of gold earrings and apparently the going rate for being ignored. I reached for the pad of sticky notes by the fridge, scribbled 2 words, and pulled a crumpled dollar bill from the side drawer. Taped them together, folded it, sealed it, stamped it, sent it. My note simply said, "They deserve it." No smiley face, no explanation, just that. By Friday, the group chat exploded. "Dana, what kind of sick joke is this, Claire?" "Mom, Claire, really? That was uncalled for." "Cousin Marissa, whoa, drama, what happened?" "Dana again, you're cruel, your daughter's going to grow up bitter just like you." I didn't reply, I didn't have to, because for the first time I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel like the one begging to be included, I just felt clear. And clarity has a temperature, it's not warm, it's not kind, but it's clean. Like air right after a thunderstorm. I muted the chat, made Lily a grilled cheese, and watched her giggle when her sandwich stretched into long, gooey strands. After dinner, I picked up my phone again, not to reply, but to scroll through therapists who worked with families impacted by narcissistic dynamics. I bookmarked 3. Maybe one day I'd make that appointment for myself, because something had cracked open in me, and this time I wasn't rushing to patch it. I was letting it stay open just long enough to breathe. That night I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, Dana's voice still echoing in my head, "You're cruel." But it didn't land the way it used to. Because I was starting to understand, people who benefit from your silence will always call your truth cruel. And if standing up for my daughter's heart made me look like the villain in their story, so be it. Let them write their story. I was busy living mine. The door burst open so hard, it hit the wall. I spun around, still holding a wet glass from the dish rack. Lily flinched from the living room, her crayon clutched midair like she sensed the mood before a word was spoken. Dana stood in the doorway, chest heaving, eyes wild. She didn't knock. She never knocked, not when she thought she had the right. "You humiliated me," she shouted, voice trembling with rage. "In front of everyone." My stomach clenched, but I didn't move. "Get out of my house, Dana. You think you're clever. You send $1 and a note like that. Who the hell do you think you are?" Her voice echoed off the walls, loud, sharp, Violent, not with fists, but with the kind of words that strip the paint off your soul. Lily stood behind me now, peeking from around the hallway corner, her eyes wide, scared. I stepped in front of her, placing my body between them. "You need to leave," I said again, this time louder. "Now!" Dana's hand shot out, knocking over a vase on the side table. It crashed to the floor, shattering into a dozen jagged pieces. The sound made Lily cry out. "I'm so tired of you acting like you're better than everyone," Dana snarled. "You think because you got out of a bad marriage and read parenting blogs, you're suddenly a saint. Newsflash, Claire, no one buys it." I felt the glass still in my hand slip slightly from the suds, but I didn't let go. "You are not allowed to talk to me like this. Not in front of my child, not ever." But she wasn't listening. She was spiraling. She reached toward the fireplace mantel, grabbed a photo frame of Lily and me at the zoo, her 5th birthday, elephant ears and chocolate ice cream smeared across her face, and hurled it across the room. Glass exploded against the floor. Lily screamed. I dropped the glass I was holding. It hit the tile with a dull thud, didn't break, but rolled under the cabinet. And just like that, I wasn't scared anymore. I was done. I crossed the room in 2 strides and stood inches from my sister, my voice low, steady, dangerous. "Get out, or I swear I will call the police and have you escorted out." Dana blinked, stunned by the calm in my voice. That's when she realized she'd lost her power. She scoffed. "You've always been dramatic." "No," I said, smiling bitterly. "I've always been forgiving. That ends now." She looked around as if expecting someone to jump to her defense. But no one was coming. Not here. Not anymore. "I'm going to tell everyone what kind of mother you really are," she spat, backing toward the door. "You already did," I said, "by not showing up." She froze, lips parting like she wanted to fire one more shot, but she didn't. She just slammed the door behind her so hard the windows rattled. Silence followed. The kind of silence that doesn't soothe. The kind that hums with shock, adrenaline, and heartbreak. I turned to Lily. She was curled into herself on the couch, tears streaking her cheeks. I knelt down slowly, gently, gathering her into my arms. Her little body trembled against mine. "Mommy," she whispered, "why is Aunt Dana so mad?" I swallowed hard. "Because," I said softly, brushing hair from her face, "some people don't know how to handle being told no, but that's not your fault, and it's not mine either." She nodded into my shoulder, and I held her tighter. Later, after I vacuumed up the glass and picked up the shattered pieces of the photo frame, I sat on the couch with Lily in my lap, wrapped in a blanket. I could feel the guilt rising. The what-ifs. The wondering if maybe I'd pushed too hard too soon. But then I looked down at Lily's face, pressed against my chest, and I remembered her whisper on her birthday. "I don't think they like me." And suddenly, there was no room for regret. Some people only understand boundaries when you build them out of bricks and broken glass. Dana crossed a line. And this time I wasn't sweeping it under the rug. That night, Lily wouldn't come out from under the blankets. She was a lump beneath the comforter, breathing in tiny hiccups, her small body curled as tight as it could go. I sat beside her, the mattress dipping under my weight, but she didn't move. "Sweetheart," I whispered gently, not wanting to spook her. "It's okay, I'm here." Nothing. Not even a nod. I pulled the blanket back a little until I saw her face. Her cheeks were blotchy. Her thumb was tucked into her mouth, something she hadn't done in over a year. She looked up at me with eyes that didn't belong on a 6-year-old. "Are we not part of the family anymore?" she asked, her voice so soft I almost missed it. That was it. That one question. That one heartbreak wrapped in a whisper. I felt something inside me collapse. I blinked hard, trying to stop the sting behind my eyes. "Lily, baby, look at me." She did, barely. "We are a family," I said, placing my hand over her heart. "Right here, you and me." "But they don't come anymore," she said. "They don't talk nice. Aunt Dana broke our picture." I swallowed hard. "They made a choice, Lily," I said gently. "They chose not to show up. But that doesn't mean we don't matter. That doesn't mean we're not a family." Her lip trembled. "Then why does it feel like we did something wrong?" I lay down beside her, pulling the blanket over us both, wrapping her in my arms like she was something made of glass and memory. "You didn't do anything wrong," I said, my voice breaking. "You are perfect. You're kind and brave and smart, and nothing they say or don't say will ever change that." She sniffled into my shirt. "I promise you," I whispered into her hair. "No one gets to make you feel small again. Not in this house. Not ever." She didn't respond, but her body slowly relaxed against mine. I held her until her breathing deepened, until the weight of exhaustion softened the fear in her limbs. And I stayed there. I didn't sleep. I watched the ceiling as the moon crept across it, the room shifting from blue to gray. Every hour that passed carved something deeper into me, not rage, not even grief, but resolve. Because this wasn't just about a birthday or a broken photo frame. This was about how trauma tiptoes in, wearing the face of family, carrying disappointment like it's tradition. This was about stopping the cycle before it swallowed my daughter whole. In the morning, I packed Lily's lunch with extra apple slices and a silly note in her lunchbox that said, "You are made of magic. I love you more than stars." She smiled when she read it, a real smile, and that was enough to get through the day. But later, as I folded laundry and watched the light stretch across the floor, my mind kept repeating her words. Are we not part of the family anymore? And I knew the truth. We were. Not their version, anyway. The one built on silence and showmanship. The one where loyalty is demanded but never returned. Where love is conditional and boundaries are seen as betrayal. But that wasn't the only kind of family. We were going to build something different. Something that didn't require apologies just to exist. Something Lily could grow inside, not shrink beneath. And so I sat down with a fresh notebook, titled the first page, New Life Plan, because I had a promise to keep. It started with something small. The porch light was on. I remember that detail clearly because I never left it on during the day. I'd taken Lily to school that morning, run errands, grabbed groceries, milk, blueberries, detergent, and when I came back in the afternoon, the porch light was glowing like an open eye. Odd, I thought. I pushed the door open with my elbow, juggling 2 shopping bags. The doorknob turned easily, too easily, unlocked. Immediately, my stomach dropped. "Lily," I called, even though I knew she wasn't supposed to be home yet. Her after-school program ran until 5. But something wasn't right. The hallway light was on. The shoes by the door were scattered, not lined up the way we always left them. "Lily," I tried again, louder this time. I dropped the bags and stepped further inside. The air felt off, too still, like a scene from a play just after the actors leave the stage. The living room lamp was on. The kitchen faucet was dripping. The back door, wide open. I felt it then, a bolt of panic, slicing through the confusion. I rushed through the house, calling her name louder and louder, my voice climbing higher with every empty room. "Lily, sweetheart, it's Mommy, where are you?" Nothing, the bathroom, empty, the closets, nothing. I checked under her bed, behind the couch. I even opened the laundry hamper like maybe, just maybe, she was playing a game and forgot to tell me. But she wasn't there. My fingers fumbled with my phone. I called the after-school program. "Hi, yes, this is Claire Benton, Lily Benton's mother. Has she been picked up already?" A pause. "Let me check," the woman said. I could hear her typing. Then calm, casual, like this was any other Thursday, she said, "It says Lily was picked up at 3:17 p.m. My vision tunneled. "Picked up by who?" There was a longer pause. "It says the person was on the approved list. A woman, Dana Garrison." I gripped the counter to steady myself. "She's not on the list." The woman's voice grew uneasy. I'm so sorry. It looks like she was added last month, electronically, through the parent portal." I hadn't logged into the portal since fall. My blood ran cold. "I didn't add her," I said. "I didn't give anyone permission to pick up my daughter." "I'm Mrs. Benton. Do you want me to call the police?" "I'm already doing it." I hung up. My hands were shaking as I dialed 911. My voice cracked as I gave the dispatcher my address. "My daughter is gone," I said. "I think someone took her." "What's her name?" they asked. "What's your name?" I answered, barely. My brain was fogged with terror, but I gave them everything they needed. "How long has she been missing?" the dispatcher asked. "She was supposed to be at aftercare. They said she was picked up, but I didn't send anyone. She's 6. She's 6. "Officers are en route," she said. "Stay on the line with me." But I couldn't. I dropped the phone and collapsed to the floor, gasping like the air had been sucked out of the room. Lily, my baby, gone. I crawled toward the front door, hoping maybe this was all a misunderstanding. that she'd walk in smiling with a paper crown from school or a new sticker on her shirt, that this was all just a glitch, a mistake. But the house stayed quiet. I stood up again and looked around like I was seeing it all for the first time, the groceries spilled on the floor, the dripping faucet, the half-open doors, the porch light still glowing. Then I heard the sirens. Blue and red lights painted the walls as 2 officers arrived. They moved fast professionally. One asked me questions, the other radioed in the details. I showed them Lily's picture, her toothbrush, her favorite pink sneakers, the cereal she loved. I told them about the birthday party no one came to, about Dana, about the fight, the shouting, the threats. "She's not supposed to be near us," I said. She threw things, screamed at me, terrified Lily. "Has she ever threatened to take your daughter before?" "No," I said, my breath hitching. "But she hates me. She hates that I stopped playing nice." The officers looked at each other. "We'll put out an alert," one said. "Do you have any reason to believe Lily is in danger?" "She's not with me," I whispered. "That's all the reason I need." One officer stayed behind while the other stepped out to coordinate with dispatch. I sat on the floor, arms wrapped around my knees, rocking slightly. The minutes dragged, each one thicker than the last. And all I could think was this: I thought I was doing everything right. I thought I was protecting her. But I didn't even see this coming. The waiting room at the police station smelled like old coffee and lemon-scented floor cleaner. I sat in one of those hard plastic chairs, my hands wrapped around a paper cup of water I hadn't touched. I'd answered every question, signed every form, given them every number I had, but Lily was still missing. Every second stretched like string being pulled too tight. Then the door opened and a tall man in plain clothes stepped in. Close-cropped hair, dark blue button-down, badge clipped to his belt. "Claire Benton," I stood immediately. "Yes, is there news? Did you find her? Did Dana?" He raised a calming hand. "I'm Detective Alex Monroe. I've been assigned to your case. Can we talk privately?" I followed him into a small interview room. He gestured to a chair and I sat, heart pounding. He sat across from me, flipping open a slim file. "First, let me say we did find your daughter." My entire body sagged forward. Relief cracked open in my chest. "She's safe," he continued quickly, "physically unharmed. She's in temporary custody with Child Welfare Services." I blinked. "Wait, what?" He adjusted his posture, voice gentler now. "We received a report earlier this week, anonymous but well-documented, alleging maternal neglect and emotional instability. The reporter claimed the child was in psychological danger." My mouth went dry. No, that's not true. That's someone's lying." Monroe didn't react. He just slid a printed document across the table. "This is a copy of the complaint." I scanned it, and then I saw the name attached to the supplemental statement, Dana Garrison. I felt the air punch out of my lungs. She did this," I whispered. "She filed this." The words blurred on the page: emotional instability, neglect, unfit environment, false, all of it, but on paper it looked official, legal, dangerous. "She said I was isolating Lily," I said, staring at the text. "That I had paranoid tendencies, that I was emotionally reactive." "Do you?" Monroe asked carefully. I looked at him, my face burning. "I stood up for my daughter. I refused to let Dana bully us anymore." "That's the only thing I've done." He nodded like he expected that. "Did she ever have access to your parent portal for school records, pick up authorizations?" I hesitated. "I reused a password once. It's possible." Monroe jotted something down. "Let me be honest with you, Claire. When I read the report, something didn't sit right. I've seen cases of neglect, real ones. This felt curated, precise. It didn't read like a concerned bystander. It read like revenge." Tears welled in my eyes, but I blinked them back. "She wants to punish me." "For what?" "For not staying quiet, for not letting her throw things, scream at my daughter, and still pretend we're one big happy family." Monroe leaned forward slightly. "You're not under arrest, but the system has to treat reports like this seriously until proven otherwise, which means Lily is in the care of CPS for the next 48 hours while we conduct a full review." My throat tightened. "I want to see her." "Please." He gave a slow nod. "I'll make that happen tonight." Something in his voice softened. It was the first time in days someone had believed me. I'll also be reviewing the source of this report. If what you're telling me is true, and I believe it is, then we may be looking at a false claim designed to manipulate the system. My eyes narrowed. Can she get away with that? He shook his head. If I can prove it's malicious and knowingly false, no. Then prove it, I said quietly. Please. Monroe stood and offered his card. Pack a bag, some of Lily's things. You'll want them when you see her. He turned to leave, then paused at the door. For what it's worth, he said, I've read a lot of reports, but yours, I believed you before you even walked in. And with that, he was gone. I sat there in the sterile little room, the paper cup still untouched. My hands trembled, not from fear anymore, but from fury. Dana had gone too far. This wasn't just about family drama. This was war. And now, I was done playing defense. The building was beige and bland, tucked between a medical supply warehouse and a budget motel. It could have been anything, an office, a clinic, but the sign out front read Travis County Child and Family Services. I parked and sat for a moment with the engine off, gripping Lily's backpack on my lap. Her favorite unicorn pajamas were inside, a new coloring book, and the little plush fox she never slept without. I'd been told to arrive at 4. Visiting hours. 20 minutes, under supervision. When Detective Monroe met me in the lobby, I almost didn't recognize him without his badge showing. He was dressed down in jeans and a gray jacket, a clipboard in one hand. His expression was firm but kind. They're waiting, he said. She's okay. Shaken, but okay. My legs felt like they were moving through water as I followed him down a hallway lined with posters about resilience and healthy families. The smell was disinfectant and vending machine coffee. Children's voices echoed faintly from a playroom I wasn't allowed to see. We stopped at a door with a window. Through it I saw her, my Lily, sitting cross-legged at a small table, coloring without looking up. Her hair was messy. Her shoes were on the wrong feet. I opened the door. She turned, and for a second she didn't move. Then she bolted into my arms so hard we both nearly fell. "Mommy," she sobbed. I knelt on the scratchy carpet, hugging her tight, breathing in the smell of kid shampoo and crayons. "I'm here, baby. I'm right here. I missed you so much." "They said you were sick," she cried. "They said you couldn't take care of me." "No," I said, pulling back just enough to look into her eyes. "That's not true. I'm fighting to get you home. You didn't do anything wrong." Her lip quivered. "Was Aunt Dana right? Did I make you mad?" I shook my head fiercely. "Never. You're my heart. You're my everything. This isn't your fault." A woman in a state badge, the caseworker, hovered by the door, clipboard in hand. 10 more minutes, she said softly. I tried to stay calm, to project something solid for Lily. We sat at the table and I opened her backpack, letting her pull out the plush fox. She clutched it like a lifeline. "I'm going to fix this," I whispered. "I promise you're coming home." Across the room, Monroe stood with his back to the window, watching. He didn't interrupt, didn't take notes, just watched. When our time was up, the caseworker touched my shoulder. "Ms. Benton, we'll see you tomorrow." Lily's hands clung to my coat. "Don't leave me, Mommy." I kissed her forehead. "This is the last time you'll have to say goodbye like this," I said, forcing steadiness into my voice. "I love you. I'm coming back." It was the hardest thing I'd ever done, prying her little fingers off my sleeve and walking out of that room. In the hallway, Monroe fell into step beside me. "She's holding up," he said. "Better than most kids do." I wiped my face. "She's stronger than I am." "No," he said quietly. "She's strong because you taught her to be." We reached the parking lot. He glanced around, then lowered his voice. "I've been looking into the complaint. Dana provided evidence, text messages, photos, statements, but some of the texts she printed show signs of manipulation. Screenshots cropped, metadata altered." I stared at him. "You can prove that." "I'm getting there." "I've also spoken to Lily's school counselor and her therapist. Both described you as attentive, consistent, proactive. Not neglectful, not unstable. The opposite." My chest tightened. "Will that matter?" "It will when I file the internal misconduct complaint," he said. "This caseworker may have cut corners accepting Dana's materials without verifying them. If I can show the report was false and malicious, child welfare will have no grounds to hold Lily." For the first time in days, I felt something flicker in my chest. Not just anger, not just exhaustion, hope. Monroe handed me a card. "Call me if anything happens tonight. I'm also recommending increased visitation starting tomorrow." I tucked the card into my wallet. Why are you helping me like this? He gave a small smile. Because I've seen this play out before. Good parents get smeared by someone who knows how to weaponize the system. It's wrong, and because he hesitated, then shrugged. Because Lily's scared, that's enough reason. As he walked away, I stood by my car with the backpack still pressed to my chest, staring back at the bland building that held my daughter. Dana had tried to take everything from me. My family, my dignity, my child. But she'd made one mistake. She underestimated how far a mother would go when someone hurt her kid. The courthouse was colder than I expected, not just in temperature, but in tone. Walls painted a shade of beige that felt almost confrontational. A place built not for comfort, but for consequences. I sat on a hard wooden bench outside the courtroom, clutching a folder full of letters, photos, and documents Monroe had helped me gather. Lily's drawings, notes from her therapist, statements from her school, each one proof of something I'd never thought I'd have to defend, my motherhood. Monroe arrived wearing a crisp navy suit and that same calm, steady look I'd come to associate with safety. He handed me a legal folder. Your affidavit S in here. Sign at the bottom if everything looks good. I already did, I said without looking. He sat beside me. You ready? I exhaled. No, but I'm going in anyway. They called my name. My knees felt like water as I rose and stepped into the courtroom. And there she was. Dana, seated across the aisle with her arms crossed, wearing a charcoal blazer and an expression of false serenity. She didn't look at me, just stared ahead like this wasn't personal, like she hadn't tried to annihilate my life from the inside out. The judge, a woman with sharp eyes and silver-streaked hair, read through the case summary quickly, eyes flicking between reports and motions. Then she looked at me. Ms. Benton, she said. You are here today to respond to claims of emotional neglect and to appeal the emergency protective custody of your daughter. Is that correct? Yes, Your Honor. Monroe stepped forward. If I may, he said. Detective Alex Monroe, Travis County. I've been conducting a parallel investigation regarding the origin of these claims. The judge raised an eyebrow. Proceed. He laid it out clearly. The manipulated texts, the false timestamps, the testimony from the therapist, the digital forensics team that confirmed at least one piece of evidence submitted by Dana had been doctored. Dana shifted uncomfortably. Her lawyer leaned in and whispered something in her ear. Monroe continued, citing state laws on false reporting and referencing previous case law where custody was reversed under similar circumstances. Then he turned to me. Claire Benton has no criminal history. She's never missed a medical appointment for her daughter. She voluntarily enrolled her in therapy. She has no substance issues, no psychiatric holds, no history of violence. She has, in fact, done everything right. He let the silence linger. Her only mistake, he added quietly, was trusting the wrong people. The judge looked over her glasses at Dana. Ms. Garrison, you submitted this report. Dana nodded stiffly. And you stand by your claim that Ms. Benton is emotionally unstable and neglectful. Dana hesitated. I was concerned for the child's well-being. Even after knowing that a trained psychologist, school staff, and a police detective disagree with you. Dana didn't answer. The judge turned to me. Ms. Benton, do you wish to make a final statement? I stood. My voice trembled, but I didn't. My daughter is 6. She loves foxes and fairy tales and calls Tuesdays her rainbow days. I don't care about reputations or family pride. I care about the fact that she was ripped from her bed and told her mommy was unfit. I want her home. That's all. The judge looked down, scribbled something. Effective immediately, she said. Custody of Lily Benton is restored to Claire Benton. Furthermore, this court is issuing a temporary restraining order against Dana Garrison pending further review of false reporting charges. I didn't breathe. I just stood there, staring as the gavel struck once clean and final. Outside, on the courthouse steps, Monroe handed me a tissue as tears ran down my face unchecked. She's waiting for you, he said. At the center. I nodded, unable to speak. When I finally reached the center and Lily came running into my arms, it wasn't the kind of reunion you see in movies. It was messy and loud and full of tears and apologies whispered into her hair. But it was ours. And that was enough. That evening, Lily danced in circles around the living room in her unicorn pajamas. She twirled so fast her hair flew behind her, and when she stumbled, laughing, into my arms, it was the first time in weeks I felt something that resembled peace. Not just the absence of fear, but the presence of joy. Detective Monroe arrived just after sunset. Lily gasped when she saw him at the door, then whispered, "It's my protector," and ran to let him in. He stood there holding a box wrapped in brown paper and tied with pink ribbon. "For the bravest girl I've ever met," he said, kneeling down to her level. She took the box with reverent hands, peeling it open like it held treasure, and in a way it did. Inside was a small Princess Castle playset, complete with glittery figurines and a tiny dragon. Lily's eyes lit up. "It's just like the one I drew." "You remembered?" Monroe asked, surprised. "I remember everything," Lily said seriously. "Even the bad stuff." He looked up at me and I could see it, the quiet heartbreak in his eyes. The knowledge that some kids shouldn't have to remember bad stuff this young. We all sat on the living room floor, cross-legged like kids at story time. Lily handed him a plastic tiara and declared, "You're the guard of the royal dragon." He didn't protest. For almost an hour we played. No questions, no legal talk. Just laughter, sparkly toys, and the sacred rebuilding of what Dana had tried so hard to destroy. When Lily finally drifted off on the couch, curled up with her fox and her new castle in her arms, Monroe helped me pull a blanket over her. Then he stood. "I thought you should hear it from me," he said softly. I turned to face him. "What happened?" "She's been officially charged, filing a false report, tampering with digital evidence. CPS is reviewing all future petitions from her. She's flagged now." I stared at him, unsure whether to cry or laugh. "So it's done." "Not done," he said. "Started in the right direction." "Will she go to jail?" "Unlikely," he admitted. "But she'll have a record. She'll never pull something like this again, not with the courts watching." I nodded. "That's enough." There was a long pause. We both stood there, the weight of the past month pressing down and finally beginning to lift. "Thank you," I said. "Not just for the case, for believing me." "I didn't believe you at first," he said quietly. "I believed Lily." I smiled because of course he did. He turned to leave, then paused at the door. "You're moving soon, right?" "Yes, Asheville next week." "Good choice," he said. "Mountains, quiet, clean slate." "I want her to grow up somewhere people show up when they say they will." Monroe nodded, slipping his hands into his jacket pockets. "Will we see you again?" I asked. He hesitated, then, "Maybe." And then he was gone. Back inside, I sat on the floor beside my daughter, brushing her hair gently off her forehead. She sighed in her sleep, curling closer. Across town, at that very moment, Dana was being served her papers. According to Monroe, she screamed, threw her phone across the room, said something about betrayal. But in our house, there was only silence. Peaceful, earned, sacred silence. The truck was already halfway unpacked when Lily ran onto the front porch and shouted, "Mom, there's a garden, a real one, with bees." I followed her voice, smiling as I stepped outside our new rental, a cozy white cottage tucked into a quiet corner of Asheville. The yard was small but full of charm. Wild lavender along the fence, a creaky porch swing, and soft mountain light that filtered through tall trees like it had been waiting just for us. Lily was barefoot, skipping between flower beds, her laughter like wind chimes. And just like that, the weight of the past month softened, not gone, but lighter. We were here. Really here. 2 weeks ago, I packed our life into boxes and said goodbye to Austin without ceremony. No farewell dinners. No last hugs. Just a quiet morning. One last glance at the front door, and the unshakable feeling that we weren't running away. We were finally choosing ourselves. Now, Lily was enrolled in first grade at a small elementary school 4 blocks from home. Her backpack already had 2 friendship bracelets hanging from the zipper. She'd memorized the name of her teacher, Miss Emery, and told me after her first day. "She smells like cookies and says my handwriting is majestic." At night, we curled up on the couch with fuzzy blankets and watched cartoons, our legs tangled, a bowl of popcorn between us. We made up new bedtime stories, ones where little girls built treehouses so strong, no storm could knock them down. And every time I tucked her in, she whispered, "Mommy, this place feels safe." And it did. I'd found a part-time remote job doing customer service for a nonprofit. The hours were flexible. The pay was enough. I worked from a corner of the living room with a mug of tea and a notepad where I scribbled all the things I'd forgotten I wanted to do. Learn how to watercolor, plant tomatoes, maybe even take a solo trip someday. I was learning how to breathe again. Not the shallow kind of breath you take when you're always waiting for the next disaster, but the deep kind, the kind that fills your chest all the way. This morning, as we walked to school, Lily reached up and slipped her hand into mine. "Do you think Officer Monroe will visit us?" she asked, her voice shy but hopeful. I smiled, adjusting her backpack on her shoulders. "I think he might." She nodded solemnly, like she was filing the answer away for later. I watched her disappear through the school doors, waving once before joining a small group of kids comparing pencil cases. And I stood there for a long moment afterward, the October breeze brushing through my sweater, thinking, we made it. Not all the way, not yet, but far enough to see what life looks like when it's no longer lived in survival mode. And that was everything. 1 year later, we sat under the same willow tree every Saturday. It stood at the edge of the local park, its sweeping branches like arms that had learned how to protect without asking questions. Lily called it our fairy tree. She said it made wishes come true if you were very quiet when you whispered them. That morning, she whispered one. I pretended not to hear, just smiled and handed her a juice pouch. But I knew what she'd said. She said it every week. And somehow this time it worked. Detective Alex Monroe arrived just after noon, wearing jeans, a soft navy sweater, and carrying a pizza box in one hand and a stack of picture books in the other. Lily's entire face lit up. She sprinted across the grass, arms wide, yelling, "My protector S here." He caught her with practiced ease, spinning her in a circle before setting her down. "You grew again," he said, feigning shock. "Are you sure you're not secretly 7 already?" She giggled. "I'm still 6, but I read chapter books now." "You'll have to read one to me," he said, holding up the books. "Think you're up for the job?" "Definitely," she said, already taking them from his arms and running back to the blanket. He followed at a slower pace, glancing toward me as he approached. "Hope I'm not intruding." "You brought pizza and books," I said. "That's never an intrusion." We sat on the blanket while Lily flipped through her favorite, a story about a fox who learns to stop hiding. I watched her nestled between us, legs crossed, lips moving as she read aloud. And for a moment I saw us from the outside, not picture perfect, not polished, but real, warm. Monroe had transferred to Asheville last spring. Quietly, no big declarations. Just a phone call one afternoon letting me know he'd taken a position here, closer to the mountains, he'd said. Closer to us was what he didn't say. He visited often. Sometimes with a book, sometimes with takeout. Sometimes just to sit and listen to Lily talk about art class or her latest playground drama. He never asked for anything. Never pushed. Never filled a space that didn't belong to him. And maybe that's what made it feel so right. One afternoon, Lily called him her protector. The name stuck. And now, sitting here watching him laugh at one of her jokes, I realized something I hadn't before. This was what family felt like. Not the bloodline that tried to break us. Not the relatives who vanished when we needed them. But the people who stayed, who showed up. Who listened not out of obligation but out of choice. I reached for my iced coffee and caught Monroe looking at me. "What?" I asked, brushing hair from my face. "Nothing," he said, then paused. "You just look like you're finally somewhere you belong." "I think we are," I said quietly. He nodded but didn't press. That was his way. He gave space, not silence. Safety, not pressure. Lily yawned dramatically and lay across both our laps like a cat claiming its territory. "Do you think fairies live in that tree?" she asked sleepily. "I think they might," I said. "I think they let the right people find them," Monroe added. Lily smiled without opening her eyes. And for the first time in a long, long time, I didn't feel like I had to look over my shoulder. The past hadn't vanished. It lived in the folds of my memory, in the lines I sometimes traced with my fingers when I couldn't sleep. But it no longer defined us. We were writing new chapters now. And the ending? Well, I think it's just beginning. If this story made you cry, breathe deeper, or believe a little more in second chances, drop a sparkling heart in the comments. And don't forget to share your own story of resilience, because sometimes your words help someone else find the strength to write their own. Thank you for being here. Until next time.